This is the brand new X Pro from 1ZPRESSO, and to me, this isn't just another new hand grinder, this actually might be the new gold standard. Now currently I believe it might be underappreciated and currently under the radar, similar to its older brothers in the J series and the K series when they also first launched. Now keep in mind, this is a hand grinder from a company that is becoming widely popular for their quality and innovation and incredibly competitive prices. And this one specifically is one that is meant to stand alongside grinders much more expensive than it. Grinders like the C40 from Comandante, the Timecodes X, and even the 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙤 M47. And it's almost half their price. So today I want to share my experiences with the X Pro, some personal, some objective, and what's great and where it falls short. And be sure to stick around because later in this video I'm going to compare it against the 1ZPRESSO JX and the Comandante C40 and a blind taste test. So tamp that like button down below and let's dive into it. And first, a quick ad from today's sponsor, 3rd Water. I believe there are 3 important factors to boost great coffee at home and in this order. Number 1 is great quality coffee. Number 2 is good water. And number 3 is a good grinder. And I believe water is often something we neglect, and that's why I believe in 3rd Water. This is a product I've been using for years, and 3rd Water is a water supplement, little mineral packets that you add to demineralize water or distilled water to produce good, consistent coffee. Right here I have their classic profile. This is great to add for filter coffee. They have an espresso profile that has different minerals than their classic to help also protect against long-term scale for your espresso machines. And they also have a dark roast profile and a cold brew profile depending on how you brew your coffee. Check them out in the link down below, and thank you 3rd Wave so much for sponsoring this video. So this looks really familiar to other grinders in the 1ZPRESSO family. It has that silver aluminum build that is both hefty, heavy, and drop proof. No, let's not talk about how I know that, but it does use a similar updated grip to the grinders in the lineup like the K series grinders, although it does seem like it's a slightly different material. At the top of the grinder is a nice maple knob with a metal handle and a plastic lid that is frosted, but the inner grind chamber is free of all plastics and is a full aluminum body with metal bracing for the grind shaft. It also features an external grind adjustment dial that makes changing grind settings easy, but also allows for quick grind setting reference without having to remove the dosing cup. Now the dosing cup is fully aluminum to match the body and has a new rubber grip on the bottom. Now I'm assuming this is to avoid scratching when you're placing the grinder down because their other models, well, they're heavy, they're hefty, and that was something that did happen. But I know what you're wondering, Kyle, what burrs are inside this bad boy? In the heart of the X Pro, you'll find a 38mm burr that closely resembles the burr from their previous hand grinder, the Q2, that I've reviewed and compared in the past. Now, this burr has proven to be really great in the past, and the results continue with the X Pro, but this newer, more rigid body and shaft create an even more impressive chassis for this grinder to cut down beans. Oh yeah, the X Pro also has an adjustment of 12.5 microns per click, more than double the adjustment per click versus the Comandante C40. Now that's a lot of specs, and given all those impressive specs for a grinder that costs $150 US, you'd imagine I'm pretty impressed. But it's definitely not without its flaws. But first, let's talk about what's good. The 1ZPRESSO, it's built like a tank, and it's a grinder I'm confident will have no issues lasting a lifetime. The external adjustments are easy, they're repeatable, and I've already used this grinder in 2 recipe videos and 1 indicating grind size. There was no issue there. When you get the 1ZPRESSO, they even supply a QR code to scan for an online manual that includes suggested grind sizes out of the box. Nice. The actual size of this grinder is nice too and easy to hold regardless of your hand size. Not something I can say about every grinder. And that does mean that the chamber is slightly smaller than some other grinders. Depending on how much coffee you need to grind, this can be an issue with a maximum of 25 to 30 grams. I mean, who am I kidding? If you're brewing for 1 or 2 people, that should be plenty. But if not, if you need more than that, there is that. Now I have noticed after grinding, sometimes unground coffee beans will get stuck in the hopper because of its narrow entry. It can even seem at times like everything has been ground, but a few pesky beans will get stuck and need an extra shaking to enter. And it can be extra annoying if this goes unnoticed. It can be slightly slower than some other hand grinders with larger burrs like the JX or the K series. The 38mm produces a beautiful grind quality, there's no doubt there, but it can be slightly slower because of that size of burr. And on average, grinding for a fine filter coffee can take 50 to 60 seconds with the X Pro versus like the JX, which has 48mm burrs, it's 35 to 40 seconds. It doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're grinding every day, it can make a big difference. So there's that. Also, if you're brewing for espresso, it just gets really slow, and that's when I'd probably recommend something like the J Max or the K series. Talking about features and its burrs is great, but how does it taste? Let's talk about that. Now, in my experience over the last month of using the X Pro daily, I've thoroughly enjoyed the coffee it produces. I found them to have great sweetness, good acidity, and nice lingering aftertaste. To me, it reminds me of my favorite experiences with other conical burrs like the Comandante. So while I have tasted these and compared them side by side over the past month, I'd rather do a blind cupping today to see if I can taste the difference between the C40, the JX, and then this X Pro. Now, yes, I'm aware that there is drama between these two companies, and that's not what the video is about today. So I'm not gonna make a public comment on it because I don't know all the information on both sides. It's messy, and until I do know all the information, I don't feel comfortable making a public comment. So we're gonna pause on that, at least for today. Okay, so we brewed 3 coffees, same recipe. We did a 60-gram bloom, we poured to 200, and then we also waited another 30 seconds and then brewed to our final brew of a 1:17 ratio, 18 grams of coffee in. Some initial impressions, I did notice that the JX had a much muddier bed than the X and the C40. So what I'm gonna do now is pour these into these cups. Natasha's gonna come in here, swap these around, and we're gonna do a blind tasting. All right, let's see if I can guess these. Got my 3rd wave water cupping spoon. These two are similar in profile. This one, it has a bit of astringency. For that reason, I think it's gonna be the JX. Not because the JX isn't good, I just know I've compared the JX to other grinders in the past, more expensive grinders. I think this is the X Pro that had really good sweetness, some really great acidity, and just had some good clarity to the cup profile. And this one was very similar. So for those reasons, I think this is the C40. I think the reason I say the X Pro on this one though, is I think the X Pro, in my experience, has a little more transparency to the cup profiles. I feel like if I was to be given this cup, you know, it would be easier to distinguish flavor profiles on this one slightly, just slightly. I could be completely wrong. Let's check it out. Okay, this is the C40. I don't know if you guys can see that. Here, I'll dump out the cup. There's the C40 on this one. Now I'm nervous. Yes, okay. This is the JX here, and that means that this last cup here is the X Pro. So based on my testing over a month, not just this one single blind test, but this is definitely confirmation of this, the X Pro produces a really good cup of coffee, and I think it's very comparable to the C40. If you look at the burr geometry, they're very, very similar. The X Pro does have a slightly different angle to the burr, and so I do find that it grinds slightly faster because of that, but it's also gonna affect grind distribution just ever so slightly. As I'm editing this video, I found something else out about this burr. It seems like the X Pro and the 𝙎𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙦 burr, this grinder right here, the moonshine burr, are nearly identical. So very interesting. The outer burr is slightly different. The bean breakers are different, but the cutting teeth are the same. But these two burrs, I cannot differentiate between the moonshine from Option O and the X Pro. Interesting. The JX, good grinder. It is cheaper, but if you want something for espresso, it grinds like way faster. The X Pro, I think, is my favorite profile of the 3 grinders. Let me give some final thoughts. If you're looking for a filter coffee grinder, I think the X Pro should be on the top of your list. For me, it's built as well, if not better, than the competition. It's more affordable and has some extra features like external grind adjustments that are just so key for daily use, and it has greater shaft rigidity. Like for example, this grinder right here, the C40, has plastic components on the inside. It's still a great grinder, and this really is a staple, but this one's cheaper. Every grinder does have its quirks, and I think it's the best option for a coffee grinder under $200 for filter coffee today. In fact, if this was in my premium hand grinder comparison today, it would be one of my top 3. It's built well, looks good, except for the stinking cheesy branding of 1ZPRESSO all over this grinder. No matter how often I say that, it doesn't seem like that's gonna change, but hey, it's not my company, so to each their own. Maybe you like that. And I think it's priced pretty correctly. For full disclosure, I did get this from Ply from Rogue Wave, and he's a roaster out in Edmonton and a barista competitor, and he wanted to send this to me just to get my thoughts, my honest thoughts, with no strings attached. He doesn't get to see this video before you do, and he has no say into what I'm saying about this grinder. The only thing we're doing is giving one of these away to one of you. So check out my Instagram, link down below. He liked this grinder, he wanted to send it to me to see if I like this grinder, and I do. So I made this video, and now we're gonna give one away to you. So What are your thoughts on the X Pro? Let me know in the comments down below, and share this video with a friend if you would. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm, especially if you found this useful. Like it on the way out, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace.